Hey guys, welcome back to the weekly Worm Farm Check-In. My name is Steve Churchill and I'm the owner of the Urban Worm Company. So it's been a couple of weeks since we shot the last video. We had the holidays and I did some traveling, so it's been a minute since we touched this bin right here. Now, I just shot our weekly Worm Farm Check-In with Urban Worm Bag yesterday, and about 12 days before that, I fed it a heaping portion of pumpkin meat without the skin, and when we opened it up, it looked like we hadn't even fed it. The worms had absolutely consumed everything that we put in that bin. I'm kind of expecting the same thing here. Now, if you remember, this bin had a black soldier fly larva infestation. It wasn't a real bad one, but bad enough to get my attention. Now, the BSFL are voracious eaters, and they're going to outcompete composting worms for food, so I didn't want them to become dominant. Now, I think we got a handle on these guys, so we're kind of back to ops normal on this bin. Now, I've run out of pumpkin, but thankfully I've got a 5-gallon bucket right outside my patio door, and I've been putting food waste into it over the last couple months. We got plenty of waste ready to go. Now, don't tell Mrs. Churchill, but while she was taking the kids to school this morning, I got out her favorite food processor, found some stuff in that bucket, tossed in a half a head of cabbage, tossed in whatever this thing is, put in a rotten apple, some grapefruit peels, some coffee grounds, and made a slurry that we're going to use to feed these guys today. In fact, I've got this right here. So we're going to feed these guys, assuming that things haven't gone haywire in this bin. I don't think they have. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably a new vermicomposter, and what I'm doing is showing you how I can maintain a super budget-friendly worm farm. But this video series doesn't cover the startup of this bin, so if you're interested in the basics of starting a budget worm farm like this, click this little arrow above my left shoulder, or check the video description for a link that lets you download the Worm Farm Startup Guide, which is a handy PDF you can use to start up your own budget vermicomposting bin. All right, let's go ahead and open up our worm farm and see what's going on. All right, here we go. Let's see what's happening in this bin. We'll remove our little seed starting mat that we got in here for heat. Take out the bubble wrap, and here we go. Okay, this looks really dry here, at least at the top. I'm sure it's not in the underneath, but right at the top, we've got still what looks like a lot of pit moss actually that has not been processed. But let's just go ahead and take a scoop underneath here. Yeah, we've got still a good thriving population here. These worms have gotten a little bit scrawny. I'm not surprised about that. It's one of the first things you see is the worms won't necessarily, they're not going to die, but they're just going to lose some of their chubbiness, lose a little bit of their biomass. So I think if these worms were a good 30% fatter, you'd be just seeing a lot more, obviously a lot more worm meat. It would look like it does over in our Urban Worm Bag, which has a much more of a thriving population. We started that one with a lot more worms too. So anyway, this is still looking fine, guys. This is not, like I said, not ideal with what we saw on the top, but I think it's just fine. In fact, I can see what looks like, yep, there is a cocoon right there, if you can zoom in on that. So I tell you what, happy worms reproduce, and so I think these worms are doing just fine. There is nothing, though, that I can see of where we fed before other than these peels. Actually, there's a little bit that was stuck to the, let me show you this. This was stuck to the bottom of the bubble wrap. So this is just the skin of the pumpkin that we had fed before. So those worms really did a number on these guys. A couple cool things here. We had some pumpkin seeds that look like they sprouted. This is absolutely normal. You can leave these things in here, keep them in there. It doesn't really matter. You can take them out, throw them away if you want. But honestly, I just like having them in there as a reminder of how fertile, worm castings are. Of course, you can get seeds to sprout in almost any wet condition, but it's still fun to see them try to take root in our worm farm. So I'm just going to leave these guys in here. One thing I forgot to do here is to talk about our temperatures. So we've got temperatures outside of 27 degrees. Right now it's 32 degrees in the barn. We got 60% humidity. Surprised it's even that high, to be honest with you. And in the worm farm right now, it's about 45, 48 degrees, something like that. So a little bit warmer in the worm bin than what we've got outside, which is exactly what I would expect. I think here's a decision I think I'm going to make is that we've still got plenty of bedding in here. I might add just a little bit more pit moss, but You know what? No, I'm not. I'm gonna do a bit of an experiment here and feed this bin only our food waste slurry. So I've got two things of food waste here. This is about 1.5 quarts, and we're just gonna feed the worm farm this and nothing else. You know what? I'm gonna change my mind. I am gonna add a little bit more of a layer of bedding. I think what we'll do is what's called the lasagna method, which we'll do bedding, food waste, and then bedding again. So I'm gonna get some paper waste here. Gonna add a little layer of bedding here, not a real thick one because we still have all that pit moss that didn't get processed from before. Gonna take the food waste, and this stuff is pretty much in a slurry form. Got a few chunks that didn't make it through the food processor, but we're just gonna spread this out along here. This stuff looks gross, but it actually smells pretty good. It smells like citrus. Wasn't much citrus in that, but it still smells like citrus anyway. All right, so now that we've done that, we'll go ahead and add a little bit more of the paper waste on top. And so this isn't as important to do in the wintertime, but in the summertime, you may want to use the lasagna method because it makes it harder for fruit flies to get to the food waste as opposed to having the food waste sitting right on top. So not a big deal in the summer, but not a big deal in the winter, but in the summer it is. Now I am going to go ahead and spray this down a little bit. It's just this food waste I just think we're going to need more. I just think we're going to need more water. The food waste is not going to be enough to counteract the low humidity that we've got going on right now. One thing I've forgotten to do was add some grit. So I am just going to add a little bit of this sand here, and just give the worms a little bit of something to latch onto. They don't have teeth, so they need something a little bit gritty to help them digest food. Guys, that's it. That's pretty simple. Stick the thermometer back in here. Put the bubble wrap on top just to trap some of that moisture. Let's put our seed starting mat in here, and we're going to call it a week, and we'll see you next week. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Even though it's freezing outside, things are going pretty well inside the worm farm. We got a growing population, and it looks like the black soldier fly larvae have taken a backseat to the red wigglers. We gave it a pretty good feeding this week, and we tried a lasagna style feeding, which is a layer of bedding followed by a layer of food waste, and we also added some grit with that food waste, and then we followed that with another layer of bedding on top. This feeding should last a week or more, so I think when we come back to this bin next week, we're going to see lots of worms just underneath the surface. All right, guys, if you like this video, do me a favor, give it a like, hit subscribe, and click that little bell to let you know every time we release a new video. All right, that's it. We're going to see you next week.